Hi everyone, it's Jessica Jacobs here again. The last thing I want to go over this week is cell referencing again, and we'll do this again next week as well, where we're going to get a little bit more complicated with it. But I just want to reinforce the basics of cell referencing that we started last week and have you work on this a little bit more. So demo exercises, week 3 file, I'm just going to work on these last two sheets, cell reference 1 and 2. This first one is just a list of travel expenses. This is a company, again, familiarize yourself with this. Company that looks like it has different regions, and we have the first quarter of the year, January, February, March, a total. We want to calculate the percentage of each region out of the total. So this is a very basic cell referencing problem here, and so I'm just going to zoom in a touch on this. So right now I have the totals for each region here, and then I have the total down here. So a percentage is always, I like to think of it as the part divided by the whole. To calculate the percentage, or the smaller number divided by the bigger number is often the case, but not always. But think about the part divided by the whole. So we're going to take San Francisco, LA, Philadelphia, etc., and divide it by the total to get the percentage. And so what we want to do here is do equals, and this is just a basic formula, the part, the San Francisco total, divided by the whole, which is the total for everything. Now, if I hit enter, and we learned last week about autofilling. Anything that we start with our first formula, since we're using cell references, we can just click down and drag this. Now, notice though I got an error. So remember last week we talked about Excel's default mode is to copy things relative. It's called relative cell referencing. And so what Excel thinks is, okay, you divided this number by this number. If I'm going to move down one cell, I assume Excel says, I assume you want to divide 23,000 divided by one cell down here. So if I click on this, notice what it did. It copied, it went from this divided by this. Well, that's not right. And then it went from this divided by this. So it's moving everything relative one down. But we don't want this one to move. We want these top ones to move. But we want this to stay put. And so I like to think of this, I call this freezing it. I want to freeze it on this one, but have the others move naturally as they normally would. So in this, I'm just going to hit escape. Always hit escape to get out of Excel purgatory there. I'm going to clear these. So I'm going to highlight those and say right click or control click, clear contents. And so with this initial formula, what I want to do is I want to modify this initial E12 cell reference and freeze it. And we do that with dollar signs, where you could either type the dollar sign or click Command T or Control T on a PC. And what that does is freezes it. It's called an absolute cell reference versus the relative cell reference of E4. So that way it'll never move off of this one. So if I hit enter, so far it looks the same, but when I autofill this down, that looks about right, like those might add up to 100%. And if let's just double check this, I'm going to click in here and notice it's taking this divided by that. Let's look at one more. Let's look at the very last one. If I click in there, it took the last one divided by the total again. So again, that's just a basic absolute cell reference. We actually do not need to do anything with this. I'm going to clear the formats off that one as well. So let's look at the last. So on this last sheet, cell reference 2, we're just going to do a basic calculation. This is widgets are us. They sell widgets. We have the sales figures for all of these different employees. So this is a selection of employees, and it shows the amount of sales they made in this quarter or month or whatever it might be. And based on that, we want to calculate the commission they get. And so we know over here, if we look on the sheet, again, familiarize yourself with the sheet, they're getting a 7% commission rate. So we want to calculate the commission for all of those, where we take their sales and multiply it by that rate. And we want to do one formula at the top, again, with cell references, where we can then copy it all down. Again, picture this as a huge list, and we don't have time to do them all individually. So if I click in cell C6, type equals sales times that commission rate. Now, again, you've done cell referencing a couple times now. You can think ahead. Okay, if I want to copy these all down, I want these to move normally like they would with Excel with relative cell referencing. But I don't want this to move. I don't want to look at any of these other cells but this 7%. So I know right when I'm typing this formula, I want this to be an absolute cell reference. I want to freeze it on that 7%. And so as I'm typing, I can type $signs, or I can just do Command T after I do click the F2. And what that'll do is freeze that commission rate, hit enter, and then I can just quickly autofill that down, and voila. Because I froze it there, it did all the others. I got no errors, and everything is calculated correctly.